Hello, fourth and fifth graders. It is Wednesday, so we're already midweek. I enjoyed our discussion on Zoom about our free verse poetry and about your thoughts on how to protect yourself during this era of COVID-19. I enjoyed hearing your thoughts of what to do, even though the governor has opened up Georgia for restaurants, barbershops, nail shops, and other movie theaters. And I enjoyed hearing your thoughts and what you thought you were going to do to protect yourself, even though the governor had opened up these venues. And I was quite surprised. I think you all could give some adults some lessons on that. So we're going to get started. I want to get started with my mini lesson. We're doing ballad poetry today. So we'll start with ballad poetry. Okay, the best way to explain ballad poetry before I get into the lesson is, what is your favorite song? If you could think of a favorite song that you could recall and sing, that's ballad poetry basically, but just set to music. So ballad poetry is basically like a song. So of course, if it's like a song, that means you could write about anything, your feelings, your thoughts, an event that happened in your life. The sky's the limit. You could express any type of event in your life. So that's ballad poetry. It's basically writing a song. So ballad poem is a poem with short stanzas. Stanzas are just the verse, which are like the paragraphs of poems that usually has 4 lines. So it usually typically has 4 lines to it and not anything longer. So while not all poems rhyme, and we found that out with free verse, all poems don't have to rhyme. Ballad poems do rhyme. So they do have some rhyming scheme to them because ultimately sometimes they turn into songs. And they use a simple rhyming structure. So like a song, it's very similar to a song. Usually the second and fourth lines rhyme. Sometimes there's a refrain, a line section, or a stanza that repeats itself. So sometimes you'll have a verse that will repeat itself, okay? Ballad poems also tell a story called a narrative. So I have asked you a lot of times when we do Writer's Lab, we write a narrative. That's just telling a story. So with ballad poems, you're telling a story about portions of your life. Sometimes the ballad poems will have characters. We know about that. We know about settings. We've learned about settings and a plot. Ballad poems usually tell a story about life events. Okay? So finally, the rhyming structure found in a ballad poem makes them fun to read aloud. And that's why they were originally written. So they were originally written to, especially in the medieval times in Europe, they were used for entertainment. Because keep in mind, there was no television, no internet, no smartphones, and the only form of entertainment they had was sitting around and listening to ballad poems. That was their major source of entertainment, with no television, no movies. So they had to be entertaining. Many times ballad poems were set to music and performed for an audience. So like I said, that was their form of entertainment. So doesn't that make sense that those sappy love ballads you hear are just like ballad poems, or ballads you hear about life? So let's give an example of a ballad poem. On Top of Spaghetti. Here's a part of a ballad poem that you might be familiar with. Now, this is the first and last time you're going to hear Miss K sing, but I just want to give you an example how ballad poems can be turned into a song. You ready? On top of spaghetti, all covered with cheese, I lost my poor meatball when somebody sneezed. It rolled off the table and onto the floor, and then my poor meatball rolled out of the door. See? You want to make it simple so that you could actually sing it if you needed to. Okay? So did you notice that this has the traditional 4-line stanzas? I left the example in MLS so you could see how it's actually written. And it had a rhyming scheme. It was also a narrative because it told about the spaghetti meatball. So it makes a great ballad poem. Ballad poems tell stories and they're entertaining. So I left a video for you all to watch. Then I want you to write a ballad poem and share it on Zoom. Or you could turn it on at 8. You guys shared poems and we did the poem snap. You know, when you read poems, you have to snap when you finish reading them. So we all snapped and vibed off the poems. So let's do that again today. So let's get to our agenda. Okay, 4th and 5th graders, you're doing Bible lesson Wednesday. We're reading on Zoom, of course. 4th graders, you have Math D, multiplication. 35, multiply numbers ending in zeros. 5th graders, you have Math H, add and subtract decimals. Number 2, subtract decimal numbers. Then for language arts, you're going to read one chapter from your online book. And that is our day. And we will meet on Zoom today to share our ballad poems. If not, you could turn it in on 8 o'clock. Happy poem writing. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.